Hi, and welcome to my June wrap-up, and I read 23 books, 3 graphic novels, and 2 novellas, and normally I go through these in the order that I read them, but that's not what I'm going to do this time. First, I'm going to talk about all the books I reviewed this month, and I will link all of those reviews in the description if you want to check them out, because I'm not really going to go into much detail. I'm honestly just going to give you my star rating because I read so. I've reviewed these but a while ago. Is the Lux series by Jennifer Armentrout. I decided to reread these. Well, I really just wanted to reread Obsidian, but it's Jennifer Armentrout, so you gotta keep going. And I'm glad I did because I forgot some things for opposition. Obsidian actually went up to 5 stars. It had been 4 previously, and then Onyx and Opal both stayed at 4.5 stars for me. And then Origin stayed at 5 stars. Next is The Summer I Turned Pretty series, which I was very, not really a fan of. If you want to know more, you can check out my review. I gave The Summer I Turned Pretty, the first book, and It's Not Summer Without You, the second book, 4 stars. I actually did enjoy these a lot. And then I gave We'll Always Have Summer 2.5 stars. I would Take Me On by Katie McGarry, which I reviewed in my Katie McGarry mashup, and I gave this 4 stars. It's not my favorite Katie McGarry, but it's not bad. And then I did a contemporary review. Mashup of 3 books, and those were Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, which was 5 stars. Definitely one of the best books I read this month. Racing Savannah by Miranda Keneally, which I gave 3 stars. It's probably my favorite Miranda Keneally, but I think she's just not for me. And then I read This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith, and this got 4 stars. Then I reviewed an adult book, and that was Wedding Night by Sophie Kinsella, and this got 4 stars. The last 2 books I reviewed were a series, and they're library copies, and they are Reboot and Rebel by Amy Tintera, and I gave Reboot 3 stars and Rebel 4 stars. So then 3 graphic novels, I also got these from the library. I read the first 3 Vampire Academy graphic novels. So I read Vampire Academy, Frostbite, and Shadow Kiss. And so they all got 3 stars from me. I thought that they were interesting, and I can appreciate a graphic novel, but I think adapting a book to a graphic novel is not necessarily the best idea. The pacing feels kind of weird to me, and I feel like we're not getting the full development, especially with the Lissa Rose and the Rose Dimitri relationship. And then I read another of my Julia Quinn novellas. This one went with her Bridgerton novel called To Sir Philip with Love, and this is about the daughter of the hero in that book. She's all grown up, and I actually enjoyed it. It's probably one of my favorites out of the novellas in that series right now. I gave it 3 stars, which I know is not a great rating, but novellas don't usually get good ratings from me. It was in first person, which Julia Quinn doesn't do. And for each novella, there's a little spiel before it where she talks about them. And she said she kind of wanted to experiment with first person. And I thought she did a really good job, and I found the character interesting and her story compelling. I mean, it was quick, but not uncomfortably so, in my opinion. So I liked it. And then I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and I got that from the library. I already returned it, so I don't have a copy to show you. We Were Liars, 2 stars. I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't really get the hype at all. I found it predictable, and I found the writing style over the top. I can appreciate a good metaphor, but it was just too much for me, and I couldn't stand the main character. I feel like you're supposed to not like her, but yeah, I feel like I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it. But I figured a lot of things out, and maybe I watched too much TV, but I thought things were obvious. Angel by James Patterson, which is the second to last book in the Maximum Ride series. This got 3 stars from me. Now, in all honesty, I think if I had read it when I was closer to having read the rest of the series, it may have done better. But I mean, these books are kind of extravagant and ridiculous, but I had some issues. What I remembered occurring in the previous books with certain characters, particularly with Angel, I felt like she changed a lot in this book from what she had been in the previous books, and I thought that was odd, but at the same time the way it ended, maybe that'll change again in the next book. Although this book suddenly changes POV a lot, like the other books are told in first person, and then this switches between POV. You get Max's POV, Fang's POV, and then like some other people sometimes too, I think. Not my favorite. I think I may have outgrown this series, honestly, having waited so long to read it, but I just remember them so fondly that I don't think I'd ever get rid of the books. Then we have this honker of a book, The King by J.R. Ward, which is a paranormal romance, and this is part of her Black Dagger Brotherhood, and this got 4 stars from me. Her series, if you read it, kind of goes from being like a paranormal romance to being more of like a paranormal, like normal fiction-y story with romantic elements in it. And the last couple of books, okay, that's not true. I really enjoyed Lover at Last when it came to Blaine Quinn's story, but all of like the side plots and like everything was getting on my nerves, and this kind of went a little bit more towards the paranormal romancy, felt a little bit more like the books earlier in the series, which I did enjoy. There's a couple characters who I was not a huge fan of in the previous book and not really in the beginning of this, but towards the end I'm starting to care about them more, so that's good. And I loved what happened with Wrath and Beth, although I wish we got to see more of like the other brothers and everything. But I am intrigued to read the next book, which if you read the series is about the shadows, so that will be fun. I read Meant to Be by Lauren Morrow. Yes. And this I gave, it was 3.5 stars. I think I bought this off Book Outlet. I thought it was a cute, enjoyable, light read. I feel like it kind of read like an ABC Family movie, if that makes sense. Like, the romance felt a little artificial, and it takes place in England. It just, ABC Family would make this into a movie, for sure. It's about a girl, and she goes on a class trip to England. She ends up getting partnered up with this guy, and he's kind of like the class clown and everything, and it's their relationship that grows, I guess. I felt that their relationship just didn't feel fully developed. Like, I didn't understand why he did a lot of the things that he did, and I felt the ending kind of felt a little rushed and a little forced, but at the same time I don't regret reading it. It was an enjoyable, light, easy read. And I read The Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan, which was the 4th book in the Percy Jackson series. This got 4 stars from me. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was interesting, but The Titan's Curse is my favorite out of the series so far still. This one kind of just took a slight step back for me, but I'm still enjoying seeing Percy and Annabeth and Grover and just everybody grow up as characters, like mature and like go through things, and I just, oh my gosh, like so much hilarity ensues, and I just really enjoy these. I think they're really funny and quirky. They kind of remind me in tone of like Hercules and Xena and that kind of stuff, where they don't take themselves too seriously, and those were like 2 of my favorite shows growing up. And I did read Delirium by Lauren Oliver. I read this because the pilot came out on June 20th for the show. It's on Hulu if you want to check it out. I think it's only on for a limited time though, so you might want to check it out sooner rather than later if you want to watch it. I gave this 3 stars. I found it kind of disappointing. I felt we spent way too much time in Lena's head and not enough time in the rest of the world. I think the concept is interesting. I think some of the world building was really good. Like, I liked at the beginning of each chapter how you have these like excerpts from books, like history books or like manuals or whatever. I found that really cool and interesting, and that she spent time doing that. It was just lacking for me. I liked some of the side characters, like her one cousin, the little girl. I really liked her, but I'm just not like super interested in knowing how it continues. Part of me kind of hopes the series gets picked up and then I can just find out that way, even though I feel like they changed a lot of things. But I do appreciate that the writing style in here is very beautiful. Like, it's very lyrical, and it is different from what I'm used to reading, especially in young adult, but while I can appreciate it as an aesthetic, it's not really my style, so ugh. So I read Crown of Midnight this month by Sarah J. Maas, which is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. And when I started reading this, for like the first like 100 pages probably, I was kind of disappointed. I was like starting to get nervous and just like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Am I not gonna like this series? I'm not liking where it's going and all of those things. But then it picked up for me. I mean, I don't want to say that. I was enjoying it, but not necessarily as much as I was enjoying the other book. But the book is divided into 2 parts, and things definitely get going in the second part. That's when like the action really starts going. So that part I appreciated more, and I gave this 4 stars. I'm intrigued to know what's going on in this world. I figured things out, like a lot of things out, but there's a lot of things I still have questions about, and I think that's because we're purposely being only given little bits of the world and the magic. But I'm excited for the second book, like just what it seems like the concept is going to be. I haven't read a synopsis. Oh, and as for the love triangle, I feel like this has never happened to me before, but I still don't have a team. Like, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not super into either of them. Like, I don't dislike either of them, like, at all. I appreciate both guys, but I'm not sure who I think she should end up with, or if she should end up with either of them. I kind of want her to take a step away from like the romancy things, and I love me some romance, but kind of just be her own person again and go out in the world. This is a young adult novel, but I feel like it doesn't read like one. First of all, I age these characters in my head. I age them to be more in like their mid to late 20s, and I think a lot of it has to do with the writing. Like, the writing doesn't feel young adult. Like, not that I think young adult is juvenile or like pandering or anything like that, but it just doesn't feel like a young adult novel to me, which I think is really interesting. Like, you could easily, like, this book, easily, you could age the characters in writing and package it as a traditional high fantasy novel and have to change nothing except for the characters' ages, which I'm really enjoying. I think that's a good step, is that understanding that young adult can be written this way and still be considered young adult literature. I read Faking It by Corey Carmack, which is one of the Losing It novels, and this one is about Cade and a girl named Max. And Cade is the like good guy that gets like screwed over or whatever in Losing It, and he's kind of like this like perfect, like projects this image of like being a perfect golden boy. I really liked him in Losing It as like a character, and Max is kind of like a rocker kind of girl. Like, she has tattoos and she dyes her hair constantly. She has kind of a tragic past, and they end up getting together through like weird circumstances and everything. And I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. I think I liked it more than Losing It, but it was lacking some resolution for me. There were some things left unresolved in my mind, especially when it came to Max. I feel like the story was more about her, and I just felt like some things weren't fully addressed that I wish had been. And then I read Finding Cinderella by Colleen Hoover, which is, you can read it as a standalone novella, but it goes with Hopeless and Losing Hope. It's about Daniel, who is Dean Holder's best friend, and Six, who is Sky's best friend, and oh my god, 5 stars. First of all, 5 stars. Colleen Hoover is like the most evil human being in the world. Like, first of all, where did she come from? Like, I just don't even understand how she writes the books that she writes, because I'm just reading this novella and I'm just like reading it, I'm enjoying it, liking these characters. I mean, I really liked Daniel in Losing Hope, so I was not surprised. He's the one telling the story. Thanks! I loved him telling the story, and I feel like that's kind of not traditional to have the guy tell the love story. Just reading it, enjoying it. You're like, oh, it's a cute love story. And then, like, bam, Colleen Hoover slaps you across the face with like this big reveal. And if you read it, then you know what it was. And I was like, what the frack is going on? I just like, Colleen Hoover constantly surprises me. Like, I just, oh my gosh, my mind. And this was kind of like Read at Night, which I believe I read last month by McGarry, where I really enjoyed it. It's 5 stars, but I would love more. Not I need more, like there wasn't enough resolution more, like most novellas, but that I want more. That I want to spend more time with these characters. I wish we could go further into their heads. Daniel's family, wish I could spend more time with them. They're freaking amazing. I kind of want to be his parents when I grow up. And me and my husband be like that. It would be awesome. His sister, I want more of her. I want more. I want more. I think it would be amazing. And then the last book I read, I Need So Beautiful by Suzanne Young, who wrote The Program, which I read The Program and the Treatment earlier this year, and I decided to give this a shot. This is a library book. This is a really hard book to describe, even having read it. About this girl named Charlotte, and she doesn't really know why or who she is or anything, but ever since she was little, she feels this thing she calls the need, and it's been happening more and more where she will be compelled to help people. So she and if she goes against the need, she doesn't do what it wants, she is physically injured, hurt by it, it hurts her to avoid it and everything. And so she's constantly hiding this. She doesn't tell anyone. It puts her in really dangerous situations, and her boyfriend just doesn't know what's going on because she keeps avoiding him and those things, and her best friend are being pulled apart. It's just about her struggle with learning more and finding out who and what she is and what's causing this need. It's part of a duology, so I'm planning on reading the second book next month, and I'm just really intrigued. I gave it 4 stars. There's parts of it that I didn't fully like, and I wish we had gotten a little more development, but at the same time I'm curious to see if my opinion changes with the second book, and now having read 2 books by Suzanne Young, or I read The Program and the Treatment, but they're the same. I mean, it's a duology. I love that Suzanne Young is willing to put characters who are already in existing relationships in books. I think so much of a book is about, in young adult, is about people falling in love, and in here and in The Program you have a couple who's already together and who already care about each other, and that creates a whole nother bunch of conflicts that you can have, and I just appreciate that she's willing to do that. I care so much about Charlotte's relationship with her boyfriend. I'm so intrigued by him. I think he's a really interesting character, and I just really appreciate that. Also, Suzanne Young, where the hell does she come up with her ideas for her books? This is the weirdest idea, and then The Program is really weird, and she has a new book coming out next year, I believe, that she's working on. It's called The Remedy, and it's about this girl that helps people get over their grieving by pretending to be the person that died, and I'm just what? First of all, that's the greatest concept. She tweets lines sometimes that she's writing. I'm so excited. I'm already hotly anticipating that book. What is going on in her brain that she comes up with these ideas? She amazes me. If she and Colleen Hoover had a book baby, it would be the baby that constantly slaps you in the face with what the hell? So those are the books that I read in May. If you read any of these and have any thoughts, let me know down in the comments, or if you have any questions, let me know as well. I know I breeze through things. I'm not sure if this layout worked. If you liked it, let me know. If you want me to talk more about books in the wrap-up, I will, but if I do reviews and I read so many, I feel why make this video even longer than it has to be? So, yes. So thank you for watching. Bye!